Two Chairs No Waiting, episode number 805, Cyrano Andy. Two Chairs No Waiting is brought to you each week by the folks over at weaversdepartmentstore.com. Drop by over at Weavers and check out all the great Mayberry items they have. Right now, they have the Mayberry Man series Season 1 DVD, and you can get the movie and stuff too. But go and get the DVD as soon as you can because there's a limited supply and they will be gone soon. Of course, you can watch it streaming online as well. But check that out. While you're over there, you might want to check out some of the pewter ornaments, and not just ornaments, but sun catchers and things like that hanging around. Go over to Weavers and check it out for all kinds of fun stuff for Christmas. Two Chairs No Waiting is also brought to you by donations from listeners like you. The executive producer of episode number 805 is Lisa Allers. I'm sure hopefully I said your name right, Lisa. Thank you for supporting the podcast, and thank you for joining me here in Mayberry. As I say every week, it's great to be here and talk about the Andy Griffith Show. You guys let me get my fix in on talking about the Andy Griffith Show each week with somebody without boring everybody I work with to death. So I appreciate that a lot, that we're able to do that and just to have fun visiting with one another. Tonight, we're going to be talking about Cyrano Andy. Now, that's an episode, you guys know what it's about, I believe, but we'll just hit it real close. Barney is smitten with Thelma Lou, but he's too shy to make a move on her. He won't say and won't tell her, because Barney, as lady man as he is, he's afraid of Thelma Lou. So Andy, ever the helpful friend, tries to play matchmaker. However, his well-intentioned meddling only complicates the whole matter, leading Andy and his and Ellie, his girlfriend Ellie, into a web of romantic misunderstandings and duplicity. So that's what the write-up says. Actually, the write-up says his wife, so I have to fix that. I don't know where that came from, but that's what it says. So that's what this episode is about. You guys probably already know this as watchers of this or listeners to this podcast. You guys know these episodes frontwards and backwards. So we're really just kind of going over it to just have some fun talking about it. So let's throw this music up, I guess, for our little background music. There we go. A little background music as we go through Cyrano Andy. All right, so we're going to hit this one up. This is a fun episode. It's a lot of fun. I guess I'm kind of skipping around here a little bit, but this was the first episode Thelma Lou was on. So that's really an odd fact known by a few, but I wanted to throw that out right off the beginning here. So this episode was originally aired on March the 6th, 1961. It was the 22nd episode filmed and aired, so it matches. This is one of them that matches. So it's the 22nd episode of the Andy Griffith Show. Its director was Bob Sweeney. The writers were Jack Ellenson and Charles Stewart. This was a lot of fun on this episode, I think. So in this episode, we begin with Andy and Ellie and Thelma Lou sitting around at, I guess, Ellie's house. I'm not sure if we know for sure, but I'm pretty sure it must be Ellie's house. That Andy and Barney and Thelma Lou are sitting around, and Andy's playing the guitar, and Thelma Lou and Barney are sitting on one couch, and Ellie and Andy are sitting on the other. But Barney always, I don't know, he was a little bit awkward with Thelma Lou, sitting pretty far away from her. I guess this was one of their earlier dates. But, he met her at Milton Bear's funeral, so I'm not sure. But this must have been one of their earlier dates because he was just kind of dating her. He had not settled in with Thelma Lou to become, the one, the only girl I'll ever love. He hadn't done that yet. So as we go forward in this, Andy and Helen again are sitting on one side of the couch and Barney and Thelma Lou on the other. And at some point, they started courting each other, so Andy's getting a little romantic with Ellie, and Barney, he tries to be suave, if you'll remember. and starts swinging that arm out to the side to put it behind Thelma Lou. And Thelma Lou leans over toward him, but Barney is scared of her. So much so that he jumps from the couch sitting beside her to sitting beside Andy and Ellie. Way to go, Casanova, if you remember that. So Barney ends up walking Thelma Lou home, and he's talking about, I forgot what he was talking about, but it was something about like taking a gun apart or something. It was something like that. And so nothing happened, and of course Thelma Lou was kind of disappointed about that, because she kind of thought he might kiss her or something, I'm sure. But that didn't happen. That did not happen. And then Barney comes into the courthouse where Andy and Opie are playing checkers. And when Barney comes in, Andy starts questioning him and asking him, how did it go? And basically, Barney won't tell him because Opie's sitting there. And he's like, get rid of, I can't do that. So Andy asked Opie to go, I forgot to do something, but it's basically Opie says, Pa, are you trying to get rid of me? And Andy's like, yeah, I am. I am trying to get rid of you. He's like, gosh, like I've never heard of kissing before. So he's not buying it at all. But then Barney finally starts to talk to Andy and basically ends up telling him, that no, nothing happened. I can't talk to Thelma Lou. He goes through this entire conversation about how Thelma Lou, she's the one, she's the cats. This is where that phrase came from, if you don't remember, the cats. And he's talking about it. He even gets, this is very romantic, ladies. At some point he says that he even sees her face when he looks in his breakfast eggs. He sees her face there. And Andy tells him, well, you ought to tell her that. Oh, I can't tell her that. Except I can only tell her that kind of thing to a face that looks like yours. So this is where Andy gets the idea that maybe he should go over and tell Thelma Lou about Barney and his feelings for her. Yeah, but and Thelma Lou's like, well, I wish I could just hear it from his own thin lips. If you can remember that phrase. Man, these writers, they had so many little phrases like that I just laugh when I hear them, his own thin lips. So, as soon as Andy leaves, basically after telling her how much Barney really cares about her, she picks up the phone and basically says, hey, guess who was over here? So Andy's back at the courthouse, and Barney comes walking in, starts taking off his hat and his gun belt and everything, and he is ready to fight. All right, put him up. Because he's going to fight Andy, because he said, just go ahead tonight. Did you call on my girl or not? And he said, well, yeah, I can't believe you did that, Andy. So Barney's all tore up about it. And basically, Thelma Lou has set aside nights for Andy, is what she tells Barney. And so this is when Barney, it all backfires on Andy, him trying to help Barney. And now Barney is going to try to take Andy's girl. So he calls up Floyd on the telephone, says, Floyd, if there's anybody in the chair, get him out. Basically, I want it. If it smells, I want it, is what he ends up saying. And after he gets his hair done and gets the tonic and the witch hazel and everything put on him, he heads over to see Ellie in the back of the drugstore. And he is pulling his Frank Sinatra, whatever, he is ready to go. Even has a little curl of his hair that Ellie even mentions at some points. What have you done to your hair? So he basically hits on her, and she kind of makes fun of him and says, Barney, what are you talking about? And then he gives her that speech that we all love. You had your chance, baby. You weren't woman enough. So he leaves. Andy and Ellie end up talking to each other and finding out what's going on and realizing, Thelma Lou's playing a game with Barney to try to get him to be jealous. And Andy even confronts Thelma Lou and says, what did you tell Barney? Did you tell him that I came over there? She said, well, it wasn't a secret, was it? How would it look if I didn't tell him? Oh, and while she's telling that story, basically Barney comes into the courthouse and sees Andy with Ellie and Thelma Lou, by the way. So I can't believe does he think Thelma Lou and Ellie are not jealous of each other if Thelma Lou is really going after Andy? Anyway, we're talking about Barney. What am I thinking? So as she's leaving the courthouse, of course, she stops right behind Barney and goes, "Bye, Andy," and walks out. And Andy's like, "See, that was for you." And poor sorrowful fella, Barney, he really believes that Andy has stole her from him. So Andy comes up with the idea, thanks to Ellie, that they could scare these two rabbits back toward one another, perhaps. So Andy heads over to Thelma Lou's house and then begins to sit on the front porch swing with her and tell her that, "Oh, I came over here with a pretense. It was a pretense, but I'm telling you, I said I was speaking for another, but it wasn't." He goes through that kind of conversation where he wants Thelma Lou to be his girl. And at the same time, Ellie has called Barney over to the Walker's drugstore with a pretense that, somebody has robbed the place or something like that, because Barney comes in with his bullet saying, "This will be my last official act. What happened?" And she says, "Well, come in the back room." And so when he goes in the back room of the Walkers, she is basically saying, "Barney, remember the things you said to me the other day? I was too young. I was afraid. Say them to me again." And of course, Barney's like I would be if a girl did this to me. She ends up basically backing Barney up against the wall and playing with his hair, and he's doing everything he can to get away from her. And at the same time, Thelma Lou is doing the same thing to Andy as Andy leans over, acts like he's going to try to kiss her. Ellie's doing the same thing to Barney, and Andy kisses Thelma Lou on the cheek. Ellie ends up kissing Barney on the cheek, and Barney's like, "Well, I can't." Oh my gosh. He is appalled that that Ellie kissed him on the cheek, and Ellie's laughing about it. The next scene we see Andy on the phone in the courthouse talking to Ellie, and they're saying, "Yeah, it looks like this works." Barney comes in, and Barney's all upset that he has stolen Andy's girl. "I just can't believe this happened. This is terrible. I'm sorry, Andy. She came right. I just left her arms." Oh, man. Anyway, he goes outside to the courthouse right after that and runs into Thelma Lou. And he thinks Thelma Lou's there to see Andy, of course. And she's not. She's there to see Barney. And, of course, then Barney starts doing all of his, he's a big man. And he ends up walking off arm in arm with Thelma Lou. And we end up the episode with them back at Ellie's house. Andy again playing the guitar, and Thelma Lou and Barney on one couch, and Ellie and Andy on the other. And Ellie's got some cake and coffee and stuff like that in the back. So eventually, Andy goes back there to help as well. But Barney basically has to get Andy to leave because Ellie went in the back to fix the coffee and get the cakes together and all that stuff. And Andy just stayed there, and Barney's wanting to make out with Thelma Lou. So he finally gets Andy to leave. And every time he starts to make his move, leaning over towards Thelma Lou, Andy comes back in. "Would you like some cake with that? Would you like sugar in your coffee? Would you?" To the point where Barney finally gets up and just goes and gets it himself. And that is how the episode ends. And it's a great episode, a lot of fun. I enjoy it. It's always fun to just watch Barney. Don Knotts is so amazing. This is a fun scene to watch the relationships between these people. And wow, I hope you enjoy that. So that is the synopsis of our episode. So here are some odd facts known by few. And as I mentioned, this was the first episode where we actually met Thelma Lou. So Thelma Lou, it's her first appearance. So the title of the episode, Cyrano Andy, basically is based on the Cyrano de Bergerac. I'm sure I'm not saying that, de Bergerac, French dramatist and duelist who is now best remembered for the overly large nose that's described by in the play that Edmund Rostands wrote about Cyrano de Bergerac. So that's what we know from. That's where the title of the episode came from. This, by the way, this was kind of information. I never realized this, but this was the only episode that Ellie and Thelma Lou appeared on together. There's a little odd fact known by a few. I didn't know that until I was doing the research for this episode. I can't. It's hard for me to believe that's true, but I have no reason to disbelieve what we've written down about this. But yeah, it's the only appearance of Ellie and Thelma Lou in an episode. In this particular episode, when Barney comes into the Walker's drugstore. Goodness, man. Walker's drugstore, the TV guide with Lucy on it can once again be seen. So we see this several times throughout the episodes. But this one is another one where we can see the TV guide when Barney comes in at the end there where Ellie's going to scare him back. This is another time when we see that TV guide. It's on the rack right as he enters the door, and it was published the week of October the 5th, 1954. That's that particular issue of TV Guide. Let's see. In this episode, Aunt Bee does not appear. We don't ever see Aunt Bee. And Floyd, while we actually talk to him on the telephone, Barney's talking to him on the phone, we don't actually ever see Floyd either. Floyd's not on here. When I first saw that Floyd's not on this episode, I said, wait a minute, Barney getting his hair cut. And oh, wait, it was all on the phone. He didn't see Floyd. In my mind, I saw Floyd, but he's not there. So he was never in this episode. When Barney enters now this one's a little hard. This one's a hard one, I think. Because when Barney enters the courthouse, when Andy and Opie are playing checkers, there's some movement of the checkers, evidently. So the Opie had jumped all of Andy's checker pieces, if you remember that. Well, according to the write-ups on this, when Barney enters the courthouse, 3 of Opie's checkers move 2 spaces over to a new position on the board. Now, I didn't ever do complete scan-in tights of this, but that is what it says happened. So the pieces move on the board, and sure enough, if you look, they do. They move over 2 spaces. So 3 that are on the bottom of the board in the king location would be, they all move over 2 spaces to the left. So you'll see that if you watch the episode. And that can't happen. There's no move that would allow that to happen. Here's my guess. That scene was shot separately as a separate scene. And so somebody knocked them over or something like that. So that's what we see in that particular episode. And I believe that is all of the odd facts that I was able to dig up this time. So, wow. That's it. That is all I had for this week for odd facts known by few. But we are not finished, ladies and gentlemen. It is time to play trivia. That's right. It's time for trivia. So let's go with the trivia music. There we go. We got Paul Mulik, who's once again provided us with 5 questions of Mayberry trivia. If you're ready, get out your pencil and your piece of paper, and let's play a little bit of Mayberry trivia. So I hope you enjoyed kind of going through that episode. Like I said, we all have watched this episode 100 times. I'm describing it to you, but you already know. But it's just fun to me to think about it. And if you watch the video version, I'm showing pictures of what we're talking about as we go through it as well. So maybe you want to watch the videos of these episodes. But here we go. Here's the trivia. Question number 1. Getting you ready for some Mayberry Days trivia, which is coming up this week. As I record this episode, this week would be Mayberry Days number 35. 35, I believe, is this year. All right, so here we go. Question number 1. Gomer wanted to get a tattoo on his arm of what kind of bird? By the way, the topic is early bird. Early bird, so everything, I guess, has to do with birds. I'm not sure. I feel like we're on $20,000 pyramid. All right. Gomer wanted to get a tattoo on his arm of what kind of bird? So folks in our chat room are giving us the answers. I see them getting it right. So I'm going to give you a hint as you're a listener. Your hint is, this is from the episode Gomer Pyle USMC. So this is the Gomer Pyle USMC episode. Is where this trivia question comes from. So here's the answer. The kind of bird he wanted on his arm? He wanted to get an eagle. He wanted to get an eagle on his arm. Boy, our chat room got that one. Everybody looked like they were getting it. Speaking of our chat room, if you'd like to join us in our chat room, you can head over to live.twochairsnowaiting.com and join us in our chat rooms on Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. That's when we tend to record these episodes. Rarely I have to move them, but I do at times. So, all right, here we go. Question number 2. 5 questions. So 5 points. Question number 2. Andy took Karen Moore out to Finnegan's Flat to shoot what kind of birds? Andy took Karen Moore out to Finnegan's Flats to shoot what kinds of birds? All right, you got that one? I believe our chat room is getting it right, looks like. Let's see here. All right, so I'll give you the hint now. It's from the episode The Perfect Female, but we already know it's Karen Moore, so you probably already know which episode that is. All right, so the kind of bird that he took her out to go shooting was crows. Crows. All right, so we had eagles and crows so far. So how are you doing? Did you get it? All right, so mainly you're having a good time. That's the main thing. All right, question number 3. Question number 3. According to the Darling family, seeing what kind of bird during daylight hours is a powerful omen? Seeing what kind of bird during daylight hours is what kind of omen, or is an omen? Oh. All right, so this one is a color episode, and it's from the episode The Darling Fortune, by the way. And you can't see it, but behind me, let me see if I can turn my camera. For you guys watching this episode, you can't see it. It's in my lights right there. It's an owl. An owl. So I have a little stuffed owl with a hook on it that's hanging upside down. So I got a crazy owl flying around right behind me. Watch out, big ears. There's a crazy owl flying around. So it's an owl. That was the kind. And by the way, George Lindsay did not like being called big ears. He said he didn't have big ears. So there you go. All right, question number 4. Question 4. What did Opie name the 3 baby birds that he raised? All right, so there's 3 birds. You got to name all 3. It's just worth 1 point, though. Just 1 point. Paul didn't say you get 1 point for each one, so I'm only giving you 1 point. What did Opie name the 3 baby birds that he raised? What did Opie name the 3 baby birds that he raised? Okay, you got your answers. I'll give you the hint now. It's from Opie the Birdman. Again, I think you already know that probably, that it's the episode where he killed the mama bird. We already got that one, I'm sure. And the answer, and everybody in our chat room, again, they're just jumping all over these and enjoying themselves. So, Paul, good job making it fun for everybody. The answer is Winkin', Blinkin', and Nod. And Winkin' will tell Blinkin', Blinkin' will tell Nod, and Nod will tell Barney. That's a cat. Here comes a cat. Okay. All right. See, I just have fun reading these trivia questions because they bring back such memories to my mind. All right. Our final question. Okay. You ready? Barney once built a trap in an attempt to ensnare what kind of wild bird? Barney once built a trap in an attempt to ensnare what type of wild bird? Okay. What are you getting? I don't see our chat room jumping all over this one. They're starting to get it. Somebody got suckered in. I saw that one. So I'll give you a hint. Is the episode is Back to Nature. Back to Nature. And the wild bird, is is the wild pheasant. It's the pheasant. It's a pheasant bird. Yeah, not the lake loon. Not the web-footed, red-crested lake loon. Not that. That wasn't what he was trying to catch. He caught the wild pheasant, the most difficult bird to ensnare. I'm sure I'm not getting that quote right, but you remember. Very hard to ensnare a wild pheasant. So how did you do? That was 5 questions, ladies and gentlemen. 5 questions. 5 questions of Mayberry trivia for fun. That was very fun to me. Those were very fun. So you got 5 points possible. Did you count it up, and how did you do? And mainly, did you just have a good time trying to answer the questions, or did it bring back memories of those episodes? Did you hear that, Barney? That's a lake loon. Wait, Barney, gone. Do you hear that? That's a lake loon. That's a web-footed, red-crested lake loon. And where would it be going? To the lake. I love that episode. Okay, so a lot of our chat room are getting, I believe, several of these questions correct. 5 of 5, some of them are saying. They did good and had a good time. So I hope you did too. And so I really hope you've enjoyed this. I tell you what, I am going to do something. I showed it for our live group before the show. You can head on out if you're ready to leave. But if you're watching the video version, I think you'll really enjoy this. The audio, I believe, will be interesting to you. I was running through some video clips and stuff I have here on my computer locally. And in 2015, we had Mayberry Comes to Westminster. It was the 5th year of that event. And I think it ran another year or 2, and then it was over. It was Westminster, South Carolina. And in 2015, we had Mayberry Comes to Westminster. I was unable to attend that year because it was the year my son graduated from high school. So he was graduating basically the weekend of that event. So I was unable to be there. I'm not in this report, but I found this report looking through my computer from 2015 that I do believe you're going to enjoy. If you'll remember, a few weeks ago, we had a report from our friend Cody Sloan, who was giving this report about travels to California and going to see different filming locations there in California. Well, I ran across this report and was told tonight that Cody actually, this is his final senior broadcast of his senior year. It's the final report he had to do for his senior year in broadcasting in high school. So I think he does a great job, and I think it's really fun to see Cody a few years ago. And so if you would enjoy watching that, stick around. And if not, I'd love to see you next week. But I'll be back after it's over. But let's check out this wonderful report from Cody from 2015.
This past Saturday, the town of Westminster held its 5th annual Mayberry Days Festival. It was sure to be a good time for anyone who attended.
Good morning, Westminster.
Take a step back to the past, to a much simpler time, to Mayberry. That's what Westminster was like Saturday, where fans got to interact with their favorite characters from the Andy Griffith Show.
Happy New Year.
Many tribute artists looked, sounded, and acted the parts. But for one person in particular, this was no first-time gig.
Well, this is my 5th year here, and I've been playing the Mayberry deputy since 1989.
David Browning is a Barney Fife impersonator. He's traveled the country sharing the message that Mayberry has to offer.
When you see that Mayberry spirit and the vendors come in and all of these different tribute artists, there's a community of people that are lifted up by the Mayberry spirit, and you see it here at Westminster.
There was one person who wasn't seen this year, James Best, who played Jim Lindsay on The Andy Griffith Show, and Jeff Roscoe on The Dukes of Hazzard, one of David Browning's lifelong friends.
That professional relationship ended up growing into a great personal friendship, and we were great buddies, and I'll miss him for the rest of my life.
There was also a silent auction. Over 100 items were donated for the auction, with all proceeds going to charity. Just down the street was a classic car show. Over 30 cars and trucks were on display, with a few jokes to spare.
What is Otis's favorite part of the baseball game? Oh, yeah. I don't know.
Bottom of the fifth.
Vendors sold lots of Mayberry items just before the afternoon parade. Up close and personal.
$1 a bottle. That's all it is. $1 a bottle.
No matter who you are or where you came from, if you were in Westminster Saturday, you lived in Mayberry.
Keep on coming to Mayberry comes to Westminster, because it's what the American spirit's all about, and that's what Mayberry was about, was this American feeling, that kind of that apple pie kind of thing, and that's what we have right here in Westminster.
And Westminster town officials said the Mayberry Days Festival is one of the biggest events for the Westminster community annually.
Oh, there we go. So Cody, great job on his report from his senior year. It's been a few years ago. Great job. And I just thought that was a lot of fun. I ran across it. I was looking for different video clips online here on my computer, and I have a lot of stuff on my computer. And so I was looking through them, and one from Westminster, and I clicked it and started to watch it, and then I realized, oh my goodness, this is Cody. So this has happened to me in the past. There's been people that I've met years before, but I didn't really know them, and then later I do get to know them, and then I see pictures of them from 10 years before, where I had taken pictures with them or been involved or interacted with them, but I didn't recall that because I didn't know them at the time. So it's a lot of fun for me. And that's one of the great things about this podcast, is brought together so many people that have similar likes with the Andy Griffith Show, and just have been able to grow those into friendships. And I am so thankful for that. So Cody, great job. Thanks for that. I'm not even sure where I got the video. He may have mailed it to me or sent it to me in some way. I'm not sure how I got it, but I'm so glad I have that, and I'm glad I was able to share it with all of you. So, folks, I would love to hear from you. You can give me a call at 888-684-8415 and let me know what you thought. Did you enjoy the run-through of the episode? Did you enjoy the trivia? Did you enjoy the report from Cody from years ago? Guys, this week is Mayberry Days week, so hopefully I'll see some of you this weekend. So come up and tell Floyd you said hey. Say hey to Floyd. That'll be me at Mayberry Days in Mount Airy, North Carolina. Hopefully we'll see you there. If not, make sure you take lots of pictures and post them online on Facebook and other places, and tag me so we can all see them later. Folks, have a great Mayberry week, and I will see you in Mayberry or back here on the podcast next week. Have a great week, everybody.